Hey everyone, Tim here. I wanted to have a bit of fun talking about a topic, or rather a task that was given to me through my Ask FM account. I always love to talk about League and answer questions or share my opinions, so you can always go to ask.fm/oracleselixir, ask me questions there. And I got a question earlier this morning, actually, and I thought it was too big of a question and too much fun to just answer in the little kind of Ask FM discussion box, so I gave it a little bit of thought, didn't dive super deep into it, but I thought it would be a fun topic for a video. So the task is, as you can see in the title, it's the what I'm calling the World's Finals Dispersion Draft. What I was asked is, so there are 10 players in the World Finals, and there are 10 teams in the NA LCS. So if I could give one player from the World Finals to each NA LCS team, which player would I give to each team and why? Now, I've titled this a draft. I'm not actually going to do it draft style, which would involve taking, probably the lowest ranked team in NALCS, giving them first pick, and then kind of going through the list. I thought it would be more interesting to take what I think was more the spirit of the question, and try to match each of the 10 players to each of the 10 teams in the way that makes each team better. So not, some of the teams get high picks and they get Faker and Bang and kind of get to celebrate, and the others kind of, take what's left. But this is a little more complicated, a little more challenging to do, and I think it also gives a better chance to talk about each team just briefly. So a couple of rules that I'm going to work with. I'm going to base this on the NALCS 2016 summer rosters, or kind of like the end. So maybe if they are using something in the gauntlet or things like this, not based on kind of speculation on what they'll look like in their next year's rosters, because some teams I think will change quite a bit. But just for something to have a foundation to work off of, I'll use what they were using kind of in the summer split. And then just a reminder of the full 10 players we'll be working with. So from Samsung, we've got CuVee, Ambition, Crown, Ruler, and CoreJJ. And for SKT, you've got Duke. I'm going to use Bengi instead of Blank, Faker, Bang, and Wolf. So I'm going to start out with, I'm going to go through each team, beginning with the highest of the NALCS standings from the end of summer. So that means we're going to start with TSM. And I've decided to give them CoreJJ. The reasoning for that is that I don't intend this to be a slight against Biofrost, saying, he's not good enough, so they need to get a better support. But I think CoreJJ would add a little bit more proactivity and drive to the lineup. He knows how to pull the trigger on things, which is something, famously Aframu has said, NA supports don't really know how to pull the trigger on plays, and I think CoreJJ would bring some of that in, which is something that would benefit TSM in general, because, they're really good at working as a team, as a group of five, but individual playmaking, I think, is something they've lacked a little bit. I think CoreJJ would be able to lane well with double lift. He's pretty good in lane. He showed that on playing ranged supports throughout Worlds. And so I think it just in general, TSM doesn't need a lot to push them over the top, but CoreJJ would nudge them, I think, a little bit in the right direction. A little bit more individual playmaking. So next up, we'd have CloudNine with their second place summer finish. I'm going off of that rather than the gauntlet. For CloudNine, I would give them Bengi. So I think CloudNine, based on their Worlds roster, they've got two strong solo lanes with Impact and Jensen, and they've got a pretty reliable bot lane duo with Sneaky and Smoothie, and I think Smoothie's been growing a lot. He's going to keep getting better. I think Bengi knows what it's like to work in a team with that kind of a setup. Two really good solo laners, a bot lane that can hold its own and come online later and do whatever it needs to do to help the team. So Bengi doesn't need to come in and be a crazy playmaker, because Cloud9 has lots of playmaking throughout their roster in different ways. I think Bengi just needs to help out his lanes, ward and invade when he's supposed to, and then kind of let those carries do their jobs that much better. That's what Bengi's been doing throughout his career alongside Faker and everybody else that's been in and out of that roster. So I think that would really help Cloud9 move forward. Next up would be Immortals, and I would give them Ruler. So I think the Immortals are pretty good this year with their existing lineup. I think they had some flaws here and there, and Huni wasn't quite at the top of his game, but I think if you add a more reliable AD carry into the mix with their roster, they'd shape up a lot better. Especially just like they don't need to have an AD carry that wins the lane and goes out and kind of crushes it, but somebody who can not lose the lane really badly. I think Ruler would be an upgrade on Wild Turtle there. He has some of that kind of aggression and proactivity that Wild Turtle would bring, and sometimes Ruler had a bit too much of that, but I think he'd be a lot more stable and a lot more more useful to Immortals overall and allow the rest of the team to do their thing. Next up would be CLG, and I have them winning the sweepstakes. I think this is the best destination in NA in terms of you look at kind of the top NA teams and which team would Faker help the most. And I think that would be CLG because they're the kind of the most in need of having a superstar mid laner. TSM has Bjergsen, CloudNine has Jensen, Immortals have Pobelter, and CLG would be the biggest upgrade in terms of leveling up the entire NA LCS. So with Faker in the lineup, I think you've obviously really improved your reliability a lot. You've improved your playmaking. You've improved just about everything because Faker's the best player in the world. You've got Stixxay still who could soak up the farm, play cleanup in the team fights, and kind of follow behind Faker as Faker makes things happen, which has largely been Bang's job. I'm not saying Stixxay would do it as well as Bang has always done it, but I think CLG could gel around Faker with everybody kind of following in his wake and cleaning up the messes he makes in a positive way. Moving on, we've got Team Liquid. I would hand them Ambition. So this is both junglers out of the way, and I think this is the position that I struggled with most because throughout NA, there are so many teams that could use a jungle upgrade. For Team Liquid's case, they're a tough one to peg in this challenge because as of the end of the season, they were in complete shambles. Their roster is just splintering into pieces with all the issues with Dardoch and Piglet, and then what were they going to do there and everything with that. So I'm kind of invoking my right to treat Team Liquid's roster as if they have Piglet. That means they don't need to replace their AD carry because if Piglet's not around, they very much do. They kind of need to replace almost everything. So I'm going to treat this as Piglet being in there. They've got a strong bot lane. Lorlo can play, the split pushes in the carries. Phoenix is a really strong laner. And then you bring in Ambition, who can kind of just tie it all together and help make it into a cohesive whole. So I think this is a team that would benefit a lot from filling that void in the jungle. And the rest of the roster could kind of piece together more or less well around him. Then we have Envious. So I'm giving them Crown. This is another team that I think could use very clearly use a jungle upgrade, but we've only got 2 junglers to go around. So having a rock-solid, non-volatile mid laner would help them out a lot. I think it would give the rest of their lineup some more freedom to try some more things, be a little more risky, give Proxen the chance to try that out. And also just be a stronger and more reliable carry duo with their bottom lane. So I think that would help them out and give them a firm anchor to kind of work around and move as a full unit. Next up would be Dignitas. This is based on the Apex roster because the Dignitas brand was bought and merged with Apex. So we're going to slot Bang in there. Because I think they've got a hard carry top laner with Ray. And again, this is a case where I'd love to give them a really good kind of enabling top laner, Bengi or Ambition, or, many other players from around the world would fit in here. But you can't always get what you want. I think giving Dignitas Bang is it's a decent consolation prize. It's not like he's, one of the very best players in the world, but okay, well, yes, he is. He and Keen would have versatility. They could play different styles. That would help Ray and Shrimp kind of be the more volatile, like unpredictable, like are they going to hard carry the game? Are they going to kind of fall flat a little bit? But then you've got this, huge insurance policy in the bot lane. Bang can take over any game. Keen also a little bit volatile in the different ways that he can play and the different kinds of things he likes to bring out. And again, Bang gets to be the insurance policy for that and kind of a foil for it because they can both. Bang can play hard carry, he can play kind of passive cleanup, he can play utility, he can do anything, and he does it all super well. I think kind of the hard carry and cleanup roles are a little more natural for him because he loves to kind of get in there and unload. But with the other players kind of having a bit of that playmaking mindset, I think it would work well around him as well. Phoenix 1 is where I would drop Duke. I think there'd be a chance here for Duke and Inori to build a good partnership. And I think the biggest challenge for Phoenix 1 in my mind is that their roster as it stood in summer didn't have a super clear identity of how they wanted to go out and win games. They were just trying to do the best they could in different ways and working out different things, figuring things out as they went. So I wouldn't say Zig was the problem on their team in the top lane, but lacking a clear identity, if you bring in Duke, then his split pushing suddenly is that identity. If you give him Inori dedicated to helping the top side out, kind of like the Rain over Huni kind of partnership, I think suddenly you've got something to build around, to work around, and the rest of the players, can kind of, assuming that they're coached well into that identity, they can jump in and follow Duke wherever he leads. Not literally, because he'd be split pushing, but kind of metaphorically, as the rest of them now know, we are going to affect the other part of the map. Duke's going to do his thing. He's going to play his Trundle or whatever else and just wreck towers, and off you go. A couple more teams. So Echo Fox. This is where I'm going to put Wolf. Yet again, team that needs a jungle upgrade. But I think Wolf's ability to roam into the mid lane would be really helpful for Froggen, who is still a very good mid laner, can do a lot of things very well. But if he had somebody at support or at jungle or wherever who could kind of help to not necessarily hold hands with him, but pair with him to go out and affect the map together, because Froggen can be a roaming player, but I think it'd be helpful for somebody to come along with him and enable him as that roamer. And so having Wolf, who can help out in the bottom lane, help Keith through his kind of weaker laning phase, and then get those shallow wards, work with the jungler, move into the mid lane, set Froggen up for something, and then Froggen gets to take that lead that he's been granted with his teammates' help, move it out to some other parts of the map. And also it would help with communicating with KFO, which is one of the big issues, because KFO has a lot of skill, but clearly there were communication issues on how he was supposed to be working with the team at different times. And then finally, we've got CloudNine Challenger. This is a team that, they also really need a mid laner, assuming that High follows through on retiring. But top lane is also a big question mark for me. If you bring in CuVee here, I think this is honestly one of the ways that I can just make the list work. But I also think it would be very helpful for C9C. He's a very dynamic laner. He loves to pick up all these solo kills that have been talked about so much. So he kind of is going to draw pressure in. He has the chance to make advantages and make leads on his own. He also has teamfight initiation potential and ability that not very many NA top laners have. So he's going to add a lot of different strengths, do a lot of different things for the team. He can be a teamfight setup man for Altec and kind of hopefully help Altec get back to where he was in the Gravity days, when he had an entire team charging in front of him and all he had to do was kind of stand behind them and unload his damage from safety. So having somebody like CuVee in there who can, we saw with his Kennen ults and some decent teleports, some not so good ones, but when he's on, he can really be that setup man. So this is my list overall. CoreJJ to TSM, Bengi to Cloud9, Ruler to Immortals, Faker to CLG, Ambition to Team Liquid, Crown to Envious, Bang to Dignitas, Duke to Phoenix One, Wolf to Echo Fox, and CuVee to CloudNine Challenger. There are other ways you could approach this list. I'm sure there are other ways you could distribute this. If you wanted your best, your favorite team to get your favorite player, this list might work out very differently depending on what your starting points were and who you favored the most. But this is the list I came up with. I think it was a fun exercise and a bit of a fun challenge, and I can't wait to see how the actual rosters shape up for all these teams. Not that I expect any of these 10 players to jump into the NA LCS. It could happen, but I don't actually really expect it. But seeing how these rosters are going to shape up should be a lot of fun. So let me know, where you would put these players, how you think it would play out, and who would benefit the most. Maybe you want to try it out with the draft approach, starting with CloudNine Challenger or Phoenix One, or however you rank those bottom few teams, and then kind of give the first team Faker and see how the rest of it falls out. So drop some replies in the comments and let me know how you'd play it out, and we can keep discussing and having fun with this topic. So thank you to whoever asked the question originally, again on ask.fm/oracleselixir, and I hope you enjoyed the video.